Step into the spotlight.
Hi everyone.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Pierre. I'll introduce myself briefly, and then I let Louis introduce himself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Louis. I'm an ecosystem lead at Starkware, and working towards making Ethereum scalable.
Yeah, so I'm a lead dev at SORARE, a decentralized app for trading football cards. And prior to that, I worked in the B2B space of blockchains.
So I guess the point of today's discussion is to discuss how we can have today real retail apps targeting non-crypto native people, and why we care so much about scalability and so much about Ethereum. So I do have a first question for SORARE and for you, Pierre, about SORARE, for those who don't know, is a football card game where you can buy and you can play fantasy football, and if you're good, you're just basically ranked and you get price and all of this being done using NFTs and being using the blockchain. And so SORARE is a somewhat centralized game where they have extremely strong licensing from football clubs. And my question to you is, why do you care so much about the trustlessness of the system you're running?
Yeah, so I mean, like to give a bit of like the vision of SORARE as well. I mean, we're trying to build a mainstream game. That's always been the target. So mainstream means like not everyone's familiar with crypto, so it brings a lot of challenges in terms of UX, having coins, having a wallet, managing a wallet, delays in settlements and all of that. We need to kind of abstract for our users. So to get back to your question on why decentralization is important to us. So in our vision, we want to bring like decentralization to mainstream people. So we believe in the core values and ownership, transparency, and we want to kind of show that to users who don't really know about crypto. Now, yes, we work with IP and licensors, which is kind of centralized. But at the same time, we manage ETH. Some users put lots of ETH, and this has to be super secure, right? So this is already one reason. ETH has to be as secure as it is on Ethereum today. With regards to NFTs, we want to have full ownership, transparency, etc. And it's interesting because when we've been building SORARE, often we want to do something, and the fact that actually the assets are ERC-721 tokens, it gives us some constraint in the way we build the app. So we can't really say for a game you cannot play this card or you cannot transfer this card for that amount of money. So there's a free market of cards, and because of that free market constraint, it has forced us to build the game in a certain way and the overall platform. So I think those are the reasons why we believe decentralization is of essence to us.
And that's actually a very interesting question about your path in terms of infrastructure. You ended up choosing Ethereum, now working with Starkware when it comes to scaling. And I'm very curious about what led you to make those choices. What made you to choose a specific L1? What made you choose a specific L2? And what consideration you had when you made those choices?
So for the story, SORARE started. The product was started about 3 years ago. So at that point in time, there wasn't that many layer 1 options. We believe in a non-commercial organization driving the blockchain. So that is what Ethereum is for us. We think that is very important to maintain that decentralization. And so the ecosystem, like the first NFTs were on Ethereum, like the CryptoKitties, and so that's why we decided to go on Ethereum 3 years ago. But at the very beginning, we actually went on a sidechain of Ethereum, which was called Loom Network. We've been there for about a year, and at some point they kind of discontinued the sidechain. So it was kind of it wasn't really nice for us. We had to migrate. So at that point in time, we migrated to Ethereum Mainnet, and that was a year and a half ago. When gas prices were quite different from what they are today, I think it was a good decision because we kind of reached a broader audience as well in the crypto space. But like the main concern really was for us at some point there was gas prices. Minting of a card could cost up to $100, $150, and with our vision of going mainstream, we don't want to sell assets which are necessarily more than 1,000, 2,000. We want to be able to sell assets which are $20 or less. So we couldn't like stay on Ethereum mainnet at that point. So we basically did a review in early 2021, so beginning of this year, of the available options. We also considered other layer ones, but like for ecosystem reasons and the emergence of layer 2s and rollups, we believe that Ethereum has still a strong value proposal. So we decided to remain on the Ethereum ecosystem. And then we consider like sidechains, optimistic rollups, ZK rollups. We kind of discarded sidechains at that point because we had like a bad history with sidechain. We still believe it's a good use case, but at that point we were more comfortable going onto a rollup. So we had a look at optimistic rollups, ZK rollups. I think the strong thing of optimistic rollups is the EVM compatibility, but our product is mainly an ERC 721 contract, which is not a lot of Solidity code, so it wasn't for us a very good reason to choose an optimistic rollup. You also have like withdrawal constraints in terms of time for optimistic rollups. So we kind of looked at ZK rollups, which offer better withdrawal times, but what I believe is a big thing for ZK rollups is the way you manage data availability. So we've decided to go what we call Validium, so with off-chain data. Obviously, it doesn't have the same guarantees as a ZK rollup itself, but in terms of gas efficiency and gas costs, it's really efficient. So we decided to go down this route, knowing that we know that Starkware has on their roadmap a Volition, which allows you to switch between a Validium and a ZK rollup mode for your assets or your ETH. So people who want a higher security could choose to use ZK rollup mode instead. So yeah, this is more or less the...
Which should come out very soon, I think, roughly a month, I guess. There is a lot of testing to make, so
Exactly. So this brings me actually to a question for you, Louis.
Go ahead.
So we moved to what is called Starknet. So it's kind of a private rollup. We are the sequencer and the sole operator. So I think Patrick explained exactly how that still guarantees decentralization and trustlessness. But we gave up on something which is kind of crucial, is composability. So my question to you, Louis, we're on StarkX today, probably we'll migrate to Starknet. How do you see composability in the Starkware ecosystem, but more broadly across layer 2? Because we know Ethereum will have several layer 2s, and we want people to be able to trade assets on Starknet and maybe on other layer 2s.
So it's a terrific question. Now I need to think about it. So first of all, Starknet itself is composable. Meaning on Starknet today, we are mainnet since 2 weeks ago and testnet for 6 months. On Starknet, you can write composable contract. And one of the main consideration between going for, so Starkware has 2 product or 2 line of service, StarkX, which is what SORARE is using, which is a centralized SaaS platform enabling self-custodian trading at scale. This is what DIDX is using, what SORARE is using, Immutable, and so on, and Diversify. And you have Starknet now. Starknet is brand new, and he has Starknet is like a much more advanced system because Starknet is technically an OS. It's an operating system running on top of our VM called Cairo. And this operating system, as opposed to StarkX, which is like sort of a single program that does one thing and one thing only, Starknet has this overhead of the OS, managing state, managing contract calls, all of sort of things. So when it comes to composability always comes at the cost of the overhead. So Starknet works, you can do it, but when it comes to the scale of SORARE, migrating to Starknet might not be the right choice right now. And this is a discussion we're actually having continuously right now about how does this thing will evolve in the near future. And so one direction we're looking at right now is to build StarkX over Starknet. And this is like just a direction. It's not something we know for sure. But what we do know is we're going to have recursive Starks, recursive proof, the ability for the proof to prove itself in 2022. And when you start to have this primitive, this ability to build proof on top of proof, then you can have crazy things like StarkX actually settling on Starknet and making smaller proof at cheaper cost, a faster finality on the L2 perspective at cheaper cost. The other thing you can have when you have those things is you can have like asynchronous processes. Like you can do, if you have this thing that is super intensely high computation, you can just do it on your own and not compete with everyone else when it comes to proving time on a mainnet. So to go back to the composability, this ability to run asynchronous processes, but running them fast and settling them back at fast pace, can both bring the scale that SORARE needs, at the same time bring the fallback into the composable environment, which is StarkX is, in a pretty nice and workable fashion, in a functioning fashion. So I do expect SORARE at some point in the future to move to Starknet or to run its own Starknet environment. Oh yeah, because when you start to have recursive proof, you can run Starknet over Starknet. You can have your own shard on top of Starknet. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say here is that at some point, I do expect SORARE to run either their own Starknet or to run the public Starknet. But for now, what we are seeing is that to get the scale that SORARE needs, we can already have this sort of a middle ground where we're still running the existing infrastructure on this new composable infrastructure. And yeah, I do expect this to bring a true composable environment for the masses in this year, in 2022.
Yeah, I think it's an important point. Like, so StarkX does less things, but it does them in a more efficient way. So it's very interesting because, like, right now what we do is mainly minting cards and trading cards, auctioning cards, etc. And StarkX is very good at it. It's probably more is optimal, right, compared to like Starknet, which can do anything. But what we like is that like you have composability of your instance. So that's what Louis described. You can have StarkX over Starknet, and you can almost see StarkX as a contract on Starknet.
Exactly.
Right. So
asynchronous contract.
Asynchronous contract. So I mean that's a very interesting solution that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And yeah, my other question is around data availability.
Yes.
So right now we're in a Validium mode. We will have the ability to move to ZK rollup in the volition. How do you see data availability for Starknet? What are you looking into? Because I mean, it's kind of a field that is expanding in terms of like solutions and research. So
It is so vulnerability, as Patrick perfectly summarized before, is one of the biggest challenge when the blockchain is. When the blockchain is, if you look at it, and I'm going to use a paraphrase what Patrick said, it's a consensus layer, basically managing the state transition, a data layer, and an execution layer. And so when you look at ZKP, basically we take the execution layer, make it trustless through the math. And right now we are still using Ethereum for both the consensus layer and for the data availability. And what we do know is that scale up to a point. And so there is this new IP 4488 that going to reduce the cost of cold data, making Ethereum more and more a data layer. But it doesn't kind of solve the end goal, like the end game, which is like millions of transactions. And I know ETH 2.0 is looking into a set of shards, but even then, I don't know exactly how this is going to evolve. What we do know and what we're looking at right now is something called adamantium, where adamantium is this, so ZK Rollup has this very flexible system around data availability. So the cool thing about ZK Rollup is that, as we say, volition enables you to select if your data is available on Ethereum or if the data is available through another mean. But if you go further down the line, this the other mean can be many different means, can be different layers. So for instance, we are discussing with Celestia. Celestia is this John Adler project which focuses only on data availability. Right now we are running the data availability through a data availability committee, which is a permission system with a set of validators that are going to verify everything's happened and get the data. And they're going to sign on it. We might have external proof of stake. We just don't really know at this point. It's still a research question for us, but it's an open one. And we actually expect to open more topic on this matter to the public. And so right now we have this community shaman, this community.starknet.io, where we start to publish more open question and research question. And this data availability questions is one of the biggest we have not to solve, because we kind of know how we can solve it. The question is which path we're taking. And this is sort of a very interesting and open question we need to manage. I guess I do want to conclude with a last one question for you before opening it to the public questions, which is, SORARE right now, we are at Ledger. Ledger is this amazing hardware wallet company. And right now, SORARE is running their own wallets. My question to you is, why did you make that choice? How do you make it trustless and non-custodial? And how can you see opening up to external wallets to the market and make it more open in some sense?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So going back to our vision, mainstream users, key management, they don't necessarily know how to manage a key. And what we certainly do not want today is that people can lose their key. So it's not an option for us today to have self-custody for everyone. By default, it will be custodied by ourselves. So basically, there's some encryption, and to recover the keys, only certain people at SORARE, like the top people at SORARE, actually CEO and CTO, have access to the cold key, which enables users to recover their keys. So for a reason of not losing a key, for us, it has to be custodial by default. Now, how do we solve fully non-custodial? Now that we've actually moved to layer 2, where transactions are almost free, I would say, we are working on a path where power users, they could just provide their public key and transfer all their assets on that public key. And they will then manage their key as they would for any other fully non-custodial dApp or whatever. So that's one reason why we started with our own wallet, is the fact that we want users to be able to recover their keys. The second thing is UX. So at the moment, how it works, a user doesn't really need an external wallet to interact with our dApp, unless they want to deposit or withdraw funds. Right? So there's still that deposit funds, unless you go through fiat on ramp or credit card. But if you want to bring your ETH onto SORARE, you'll need an external wallet. which makes sense because if people have this, normally they have a wallet. So in terms of UX today, it means that when you interact with the app, when you trade, when you bid, like it's seamless, it's in the browser, nothing, I mean, bugs you, it's very, very easy. Like if we talk of Ledger or any other external wallet, which is something that we want to provide as part of our path to having self-custodial keys, we will need to find a way to keep that UX. Like one of our mechanisms is auctions, English auctions. They can have like 50, 60, 100 bids on auctions. They can have like 20 bids in the last 1 minute. And it's not really an option for a user to have to bid and then maybe unlock his wallet and sign, etc. It has to be fast, it has to be quick. So this is the UX constraint we will have to tackle when we will deal with external wallets. But it's definitely on our roadmap, and we'd love to be there already.
Makes sense. So I guess that kind of close the open question we have for each other. So we'd love to hear if there is a question from the public. And I would think there is a mic coming your way, so raise your hands. There is a hand over there at the top. Okay.
Maybe you will tokenize these NFTs in several ERC20. You mean, I mean, treatization of a footballer rights. But is it in the roadmap?
Can you repeat the question because
yes,
your mic came late, so I'm not sure if people who
yes,
are going to listen to this will know about it.
I said so at this beginning of this talk. You said that there is still a kind of centralization because of the licenses, IP rights, etc. Do you think that in the near future, on SORARE, we'll be able to be the manager of a footballer? You will say the entire right on of a footballer, you see?
That's an interesting question. I don't think it's going to happen soon. But we see, you know, in the sports space, lots of, I mean, some players start being paid in crypto. So we can imagine a future where maybe there is a smart contract with, you know, fees and that, you know, the player agent manages, and maybe it's something that could come in the future. I think it's still far away. We are not there yet. But yeah, it could be quite interesting.
Any other question? Yeah, there is a question at the bottom. I don't hear myself anymore. Is that normal? Hello? You hear me? Yeah, I hear you. Okay, great. I'm hearing you okay? Yeah, I'm hearing you okay.
Awesome. Yeah, so my question was kind of for both of you. So it sounds like one of the big advantages of StarkNet over StarkX is this composability. I'm curious, for SORARE, any use cases or products that you're particularly excited to be able to compose with when that's open to you? And to Starkware, anything that you're particularly excited about on the composability side?
I do have an answer for him. I need to, because it gave a point about Ledger and having problems with auction because of Ledger signing time and so on. So one thing about StarkNet is that we don't have EOAs. We don't have like just private keys, which are account. Everything is a contract in StarkNet, including account. And so one thing that they could come up with, and I'm going to give you now, is you could have ephemeral keys for, let's say, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, which will give you the right to sign on the browser and then be discarded. And so this way, this key could be authorized by, let's say, the ledger, by the nano, and then in the UI, for 20 minutes, this thing has the right to do this kind of operation up to a limit that is sort of defined. This is just an example based on what you just said. So,
yeah, that's actually a very good example. I think like auto bidding, lots of our users are looking for that kind of things because It could be annoying to wake up at 2 in the night just to bid on a card. I mean, some people like it because they might have an advantage over some people that are still asleep. But that's actually that's actually a very good use case. So in our ecosystem right now, we have other games that are playing with our cards. Right now is just API based, so there's no staking of cards or anything. So games probably, if they have some gameplay that involves staking the card, and then I think it's more like related to NFTs. So maybe like I don't know what the technical name is, but tranching. So like converting an NFT into ERC20 tokens.
Fractionalization.
Fractionalization, thank you, Louis. So this could be a use case. Some of our cards are super expensive. We can see a future where maybe there will be DAOs, which would own cards, which could be part of the game. Well, we like to have people be able to be creative as well. We don't. All the ideas do not come from us. So I think that's why we think it's important.
One last question. Otherwise, I think our time is up. So, yeah, I think it's exactly 3. Sorry?
I do have a question.
Please.
I guess SORARE is a great example of a mainstream application, actually. And I was kind of wondering if you could walk us through maybe some volumes and the kind of scale that you're running out. I think I'd be really interested in that.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a few numbers. So like our contract on Mainnet, which is the where people stake their ETH to be able to play on our game. Right now is $25 million. It doesn't take into account value of NFTs as well. Another interesting number, so we have people entering the rollup, exiting the rollup. We have over 250 ETH of withdrawals every day, which are compensated by deposits. So it's a lot of volumes. Since we started working with Starkware end of July, we've settled roughly 4 million trades, to give you an idea. In terms of active users, it's 300,000 to 400,000 users. Active users, we have more than 100,000 active paying users every week. We have a reach into several countries. Lots of users in the US, South America, Turkey. So that's what is interesting as well. I mean, we have like a global coverage. So those are the kind of numbers I can share with you. Like the most expensive card was sold for 200 or 300k euros. Recently, we have similar sales on the secondary market. The overall market volume is more than 10 million every week. So yeah, those are basically the numbers today on SORARE.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you
very much.
So just one thing just a quick question for Starkware.
Okay.
So it is all.
I thought it was out of the hook, so not.
Sorry. I've been slow actually. Carl was done. I had to grab it.
Sure,
I was a
go
bit too
ahead.
slow. But anyway, in the hypothesis of Starkware ever having a token, would we?
Sorry, continue.
You're already laughing at me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I have a real question.
Go ahead.
Would the transactions actually still be paid with Ethereum?
So that's a whole topic I genuinely can't comment about for many reasons, including legal ones. So that is my answer. I'm sorry.
Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.